You speak in meetings, you post on LinkedIn, you lead your team, but deep down inside, you've lost your voice. This video is going to help you reclaim it. See, high performing women, high achieving women can lose their voice and not even realize it because they are showing up every single day. As a high performing woman, you are showing up, you are in your meetings, you are doing your job, and you're excellent at what you do. But deep down on the inside, you are losing you. Deep down on the inside, you are dissatisfied with your current circumstances. You are dissatisfied with how things are going systematically, but yet you remain silent. You go with the flow. You abandon your mission in order to push forward somebody else's mission. You show up even though you don't want to be in that situation. You show up even though you're not happy with the circumstance. You show up even though you're resisting what's going on. See, inwardly, there's this rebellion happening, but externally, you look like you are complying and giving the very best you have. In this video, I'm going to talk about how high performing women can lose their voice and not even know it. I am so passionate about this topic because as a high performing woman, I lost my voice. And I had been groomed to lose my voice since a very young age. I had been groomed to think that my voice did not matter. And I would hear oftentimes a message replaying in my mind over and over and over. No one wants to hear what you have to say. And that message was then reinforced when I would present an opposing opinion, or when I would come in with this creative idea or this unique perspective that was not received. For me, it then solidified that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And so it then caused me to be positioned in a way where I would just go with the flow, even if I could foresee that following the flow would be detrimental. If you can relate to this at all, comment down below and let me know your kinds of experiences. If it is something that you are willing to share, comment below and let me know. Say, I know what you're talking about. You don't even have to give me the full story. Just say, I can relate. So that'll be the word. I can relate. Put that in the comment section. Now, I had been groomed from a young age based on my experiences, based on my home life, based on what was going on all around me. Even though no one particularly said the words to me, no one needs to hear what you have to say. Through my environment, I began to pick up that silence would get me more than speaking up ever could. I used to think to myself that if this person would just be quiet, things could go a lot smoother. And I thought that for a majority of my life. Even though I was called to a position of leadership. Now, I had been called from my mother's womb, and how I knew I was called. And if you're anything like me, you've been called from your mother's womb to a position of leadership. And because you have been called from your mother's womb to a position of leadership, you are in a leadership position everywhere you go. No matter whether you are asking for the position or not, you are appointed into the position every time you show up. You are a leader of leaders. You are the person who really sets the tone for certain things, even though deep down on the inside of you, you think your voice doesn't count. Right? So from my mother's womb, I am called forth a leader. I am the third oldest of 10 children. And so I have been leading from a very young age, having this position of influence, having this position where people are looking up to me. They are looking to me for guidance. They are looking to me for some sort of direction, right? They're looking to me to do the things that I'm doing. They are modeling the things that I'm doing, even when I'm not aware of it. The very first time I realized that I carried this level of influence when it came to my siblings was I made a statement, and I was always, I mean, always making these joking statements. And I'm not sure exactly what preceded the events, but I'm pretty sure one of my siblings, particularly a brother, had done something to me. And so there was this, there was a hole in the screen in my brother's room. I don't know how it got there. I was not the one who did it, okay? But there was a hole in the screen window because you know kids will be kids. They know how to put holes and stuff. And so there's this hole in the screen. And I go, I'm going to throw your Pokemon cards out the window. Because at the time, when I was younger, my brothers had Pokemon cards. And they loved their Pokemon cards. And honey, you did something to me. So baby, guess what I'm gonna do? Take your stuff and do something to you. Okay. And I said it jokingly and didn't think anything of it. And I'm still downstairs. And as I'm downstairs, I see falling from the second floor of the house Pokemon cards. And I don't know if somebody came in the house or what happened, but somehow my mama found out. And she goes, now, how did this happen? Like, why are y'all throwing Pokemon cards out the window? Now, because I have been called a leader from my mother's womb, I don't have a problem taking accountability for my actions. And so, as the older sister, I stood up, even though she's talking to these two younger siblings. I don't even remember particularly who it was. They know who they are, though. But she's talking to my two younger siblings, and I raised my hand and I say, you know, I jokingly said, I will throw these Pokemon cards out the window. And so they're just doing something that I said. I didn't mean anything by it. I was just joking. And so my mother then turns to me and she says, you have to watch what you say because your younger sibling, they're listening to what you say and they're going to go and do exactly what it is that you say, even if you're joking, even if you don't have an intention behind it to perform the action, they will do it. And so in that moment, I was met with this level of influence that I carried. Even though I still, at that moment, did not understand the weight of influence, I didn't understand the weight of it. I had to be about 13 years old, maybe 12, 13 years old at the time. And then I remember being in school, and I have always had to go to the bathroom quite frequently. Okay, and so I remember asking in school, excuse me, can I go to the bathroom? And my teacher pulls me to the side and he says, Shiyterea, please try not to go to the bathroom as often because when people see you go to the bathroom, then they go to the bathroom. And I thought to myself, now that's foolishness. What are you doing in the bathroom aside from using it? Let's go ahead, go to the bathroom, come on back, get our work done. But I was the kind of person who was focused, right? I would, if I'm saying I'm going to do a task, like go to the bathroom, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to come back. So I've always been this focused, high achieving person, right? Who people could readily identify as a leader. And that carried on throughout my entire life. I'm a leader of leaders. And if you look back over your life, if you are anything like me, then I guarantee you I have been identified as a leader by other people all around you. Anytime I would get a job, they would identify me as a leader. I remember at 17 opening up Subway because I used to work at Subway Get Fresh, but I would be opening up the store on the weekends as a 17-year-old. I remember various positions that I held always being positioned in a higher position than I had. I was easily promoted. People would see this light in me and they would call it out. They would come and they would try to get that thing. Not like try to steal my light, but they would want to position me in the forefront, right? They would want to position me in a way where I was running things. And that has always been a pattern in my life. Now, does that mean I always liked being in the forefront? Does that mean that I always appreciated what it meant to carry this level of leadership, to have this level of responsibility? Absolutely not, because there was a weight and a pressure that came with it that I was not properly groomed for. I was not properly taught what it meant to lead and how I could not lose me in the process of leading, how I could show up and speak up in a way that would cause things to shift and move. So, since I'm called as a leader from my mother's womb, there has always been a fight against my identity, against my positioning as a leader, and against my belief in my ability to lead. And if you are anything like me, because you have been called from your mother's womb, you have had to fight for your position as a leader. And since you have been fighting for your position as a leader, you have internally been rejecting it. You have internally been telling yourself that this is not the place for you because there's so much opposition. If that resonates with you, if you've had opposition along your leadership journey, I want you to write, I can relate in the comments. I want you to write, I can relate in the comments, because there was so many times where I was willing to give up the mantle of leadership. There were so many times where I was willing to give up the position as a leader because all I wanted was peace. I felt like, you know what, leading just brings problems to my life. All I want is peace. And I remember, if you hear that paper crinkling, I have my notebook on my lap for notes, but I am completely off of originally the notes that I have. So maybe we'll get back on there. But if this is good to you, right, keep going. This is good to me. Okay. So I remember realizing that as a leader, I was meant to handle these objections. I was meant to handle the obstacles that presented themselves. That's the very reason why I'm in a leadership position. And the very first time I realized it, I was, I believe, 23 years old at the time. I was either 23 or 24. And I was working at the last company that I had worked for, and as a district manager. And my peer mentor at the time told me that he had told our boss, he posed this question to our boss, and he was like, why can't my people just do what I want them to do without me saying anything? And our boss told him, if they did that, you would not have a job. And so my peer mentor at the time said, you know what? I guess that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't have a job if they just knew exactly what to do and there was no reason for me to be here. And when he said that, what I realized was I have a position, whether it's in a corporation or in life just in general. I'm positioned in a particular place as a leader because someone needs my leadership. They need me to take them from one place to another. Now, does that mean I have to micromanage? Does that mean that I have to overshadow? Does that mean that I have to coddle? No. It means that I was meant to be in a place where I could dispense, where I could release, where I could give something that I had to make someone better. I could make this deposit that would allow someone to become more than they were before they met me. Now, the reason I smile at that is because now I openly welcome it. But before, I dreaded it because I was not familiar with my voice. I was so frustrated with the sound of my voice because I was not actually even using my voice. And I had been paralyzed by my experiences that had been sent to silence my voice. If you are anything like me, as a high performing woman, you have encountered situation after situation that has sought to silence you. And in it seeking to silence you, you have created or become accustomed to this level of resistance that tells you it's time to retreat. If you have ever wanted to retreat from being positioned as the person of authority, if you have ever wanted to retreat from being the person that people go to, then this video is for you, because at some point along the way, you've probably just become the person who regurgitated the cultural norms that you became accustomed to because you were fed up with fighting. You were fed up with the friction that came along with leading, and you forgot that the very reason you were placed into position was to command the environment or the atmosphere around you. The very reason you were placed in position is to make a difference. And the difference that you carry is defined by exactly who you are, the unique qualities, the values that you carry, the thought patterns that you have. You were meant to make this impact, to be this light in a dark place. But oftentimes you were looking for a way out because you did not respect the calling on your life. I want us to sit there for a minute because I did not respect the calling on my life. I did not respect the call to leadership. And why I didn't respect the call to leadership was because I did not see myself fully functioning in that arena freely. I was so frustrated in the place of leading because I felt like I had to fit into someone else's mold. If you have ever tried to fit into someone else's mold, put me in the comment. Put me in the comment. You have tried to fit into somebody else's mold, but you could not fit because it wasn't for you. Listen, you're a bowl trying to be a plate. Okay? You're a cup trying to be a bowl. I remember when I worked for this billion-dollar company overseeing million-dollar stores. My boss wanted me to become this different version of myself, but the version that he wanted me to become, I could not adhere to. And I was so frustrated with the process of him trying to make me into someone else, and I missed the importance of becoming the best version of me. And so what happened was I just would become frustrated with the whole process. I was just so frustrated with the whole process that I began to sabotage myself. I was so frustrated with what he was trying to do in that moment, and I was afraid of failing, that I just began to sabotage myself. I began to be destructive to my own progress. And it wasn't until the Holy Spirit got me right that I realized that even if I don't agree with him, I cannot conform to this idea of a person that I'm not by fighting against my own progress. I had to be intentional about the new direction that I was going to go in because I had to accept that, period, I was a leader. Whether he respected the call on my life, I had to respect the call on my life. This is a season where you need to begin to respect the call on your life. Aretha Franklin said, RESPECT, find out what it means to me. As she sang that song, I don't really know what she was talking about, but what I do know is oftentimes we don't know what respect means. We don't know how to be respectful of ourselves and then in turn commanding a respect. Not in a sense of going to someone and saying, you're going to respect me, but when I show up, my respect of me speaks to you and I don't even have to. The way I carry myself says this woman will be respected. And if she's not, don't worry, that's a boundary you've crossed. But she will not stand for anything other than that. Right? I don't have to go out and curse you out and do any of that, right? Because I have a God who goes before me, who makes every crooked path straight and every rough place smooth. And as a high achieving woman, you have to remind yourself of the very principles and promises that belong to you that are biblical. And as you do that, you will position yourself to reclaim your voice. Listen, I have gotten off all of my notes, so let me look down here and see where I am at, okay? Okay. I'm nowhere on these notes, okay? I'm absolutely nowhere on these notes. Okay, let's see. Let me see. So I'm just gonna keep going with the flow of what I already have here. So you are showing up, but yet you're not satisfied. You're showing up, but yet you're not satisfied because you've rejected this call on your life. I want you to take a moment to think about why you are rejecting the call of leadership on your life, why you are so willing to give it up. And I was willing to give it up because I thought that the friction just wasn't worth it. I thought if I'm going to have to fight this much, I'm probably not called to it. But the truth of the matter is, it's the fighting that has strengthened me. I did a short at one point, and it talks about how this butterfly has to fight to get out of the cocoon. And that if a person comes through and they help the butterfly out, the butterfly will die. This butterfly will die unless it fights its way out of the cocoon. I'm going to link that YouTube short in the description. You go watch it and share it with 5 of your friends because it is a blessing. See, here's the thing. You don't want to be a butterfly, right? You're like, okay, I had a good time being a pupa. No, excuse me. I had a good time being a caterpillar. The pupa is what that butterfly was in. I had a good time being this caterpillar, eating on this leaf. But the truth of the matter is, ma'am, you can't go to your next level without becoming the butterfly. And that means that in the dark space where you take some time to really identify, to really break down, and to really reestablish who you are so that you can voice out the right way and be exactly who you've been called to be. The version of you that you have yet to meet has so many people that you're responsible for impacting, but your refusal to keep and to accept this mantle of leadership means that many people will miss out on what they need from you. Many people will miss out on what is in you because the fruit that you've been called to produce is not for you. If you refuse to really come into agreement with the truth of who you are, if you really refuse to have a candid conversation with you and to discover why you're internally muting you, then you're refusing to serve at the highest level. See, as a leader, one of your favorite things is serving those that you're connected to. And your refusal to become the best version of you, your refusal to reclaim your voice, is you saying, I won't serve the way I've been meant to. And it'll cause you to be empty. It'll cause you to be frustrated. It will cause you to see cyclical cycles of failure. And you weren't meant for that. You were meant for more. You were meant to obtain more. You were meant to do more. You're already a high-performing woman, but you're not performing at your highest level. You haven't even scratched the surface yet. You have not even done what you've been called here to do, because there's levels and there's layers. But your refusal to reclaim your voice, it's squelching you. It's squelching you. So I want you to, by the end of this video, to have made the decision that you are going to reclaim your voice. And you are going to demonstrate your agreement with reclaiming your voice by typing in the comment section, I'm reclaiming my voice. See, your voice matters. How you show up matters. The momentum that you engage in, the momentum that you have attached to your life, that matters. And if you refuse to move forward, you're not just hindering you, you're hindering a generation that you have yet to meet, because there are some deposits that when you make them into people, they multiply. See, here's the great thing about a deposit. A deposit, it will start off small, but it will begin to compound over time. I know when you were in school, you were like, I'm never going to need to understand the time value of money. I'm never going to need to understand compound interest. Why are they talking about this? Why are they doing this? Right? I know I sat in class doing that. I'm never going to need this. I'm never going to need that. No, ma'am, you need it because you are a woman who makes deposits. And every deposit that you make, there's an interest that gets attached to it. It gets incubated and it grows over time because what you deposit, the lesson that you release, somebody takes that and then they are able to add to it. And what they add to it, they then give to somebody else, and then that person adds to it. So it never remains the same as the deposit that you release, but it grows. It grows. And you not reclaiming your voice, you refusing to identify what is silencing you, is stopping somebody else's growth. In this season, I need you to refuse to remain the same. I need you to be fiery and I need you to be fierce and focused on where you are going. See, with my framework, it's very simple, very easy to implement, and it allows you to really move forward. It's simple. It's recognize, rebuild, and reclaim. You are going to readily identify the things that have caused you to be fearful. Number one, you're going to recognize if you cannot readily identify a thing, you can't kill it. Let me put it this way. If you buy the wrong, at the store they have like the poison to kill like certain things, right? And when I say certain things, I mean like ants, roaches, rats. If you buy the wrong trap or if you buy the wrong poison, you're not going to be able to kill what's been a pest or a nuisance to you. So fear is a pest. It is a nuisance. It is something that needs to be forcefully removed out of your life. But if you cannot readily identify how fear shows up in your life, you can't utterly destroy it. Because in this season, you are leaving no space for fear to re-alive itself, to reclaim a position in your life. You are shutting it down by fire and by force because you're not playing with this nonsense. You are a high-performing woman. And this is a season for you to show up boldly, where you're no longer unhappy, where you're no longer dissatisfied, where you're no longer wearing a mask. But you are positioned in a place of power because you believe in you in this season. So you're going to readily identify how fear is showing up in you. Then you're going to rebuild how you identify, right? Because there's some internal friction that's telling you who you are. I told you earlier that there was a voice in my head that said nobody needs to hear what you have to say. And what that voice was telling me essentially through that phrase was I was worthless. And I believed that lie. So I would stay silent. I would conform in conversations. I would shrink in rooms until I realized the devil is a liar. What I have matters. What I say creates movement. And I was meant to shift atmospheres, right? So you have got to recognize, rebuild, and then you reclaim. Then you start speaking out. You start leading differently. You start showing up differently. I realized that once I readily identified, once I rebuilt, and once I reclaimed, things begin to look a lot differently. It impacts how I raise my daughter. See, before people would speak to me about how I was raising my daughter and how they disagreed with how I raised my daughter, and it in the past that would have negatively impacted me. But because I am very clear on my call as a mother, I am intentional about how I mother my daughter. I don't do it haphazardly. I do it by the leading of the Holy Spirit. And if it's not okay with Holy Spirit, then it's not okay with me. Regardless of what natural person disagrees with how I handle her. But I am so firm in that because I am firm in who I am, who I've been called to be, and what I carry. I'm very clear that I'm not just raising my daughter, but I am raising my sister in Christ. And that how I touch the life of my daughter impacts how she reverences God. And so in this season, you have got to recognize, rebuild, and reclaim so that you can go to the next level. If this video blessed you in any way, write blessed in the comment section and share it with 3 people. Also, there is a link for you to go ahead and take your free scorecard so you can see the patterns of how fear is showing up in your life. And you can also register for the master class. You want to reclaim your voice in this season, so you need to take the scorecard and you need to be a part of the master class. And so I'm going to see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.